press briefing about for Fisheries-folk and civil society perspectives and their voices on the current fisheries subsidies negotiations that are happening here in Abu Dhabi at MC13. We know there's a lot of pressure, I think is maybe one word to use, for an outcome here. The previous ministerial saw the outcome of the agreement on fisheries subsidies, which was only, I guess you could say it's a half deal, and with the aim to finish the rest of it here at MC13. And there's a lot of had a lot of attention lately. Fisheries subsidies. There's a lot of interest in. I think there's a lot of goodwill to find an outcome that actually meets the mandate of Sustainable Development Goal 14.6. However, I think, and some of my colleagues here will also discuss this. There's concern that what's currently being discussed and what's currently on the table is going to fall short of the mandate that's been set by leaders, for ministers here at the WTO. So we have a panel here today, from a range of different countries, from Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, from Australia and Pacific Island countries. And I'll introduce people individually, but when it's I pass the mic to them. But to give you some context about who I am, my name's Adam Wolfenden. I'm the Deputy Coordinator with the Pacific Network on Globalization. PANG, as it's known, is a Pacific Islands regional NGO. And we work throughout the Pacific Island countries and to advocate and promote self-determination amongst them. PANG has been following the fisheries negotiations issue for quite a while, and I think the concerns that we've had at the start are unfortunately still the concerns we have now, and that's that this agreement isn't doing enough to rein in the problem of large-scale fishing, subsidies contributing to large-scale fishing, and subsidies that result in overcapacity within the global fishing fleet. And the text that the chair released just prior to the ministerial, we would argue that it's an unbalanced text. There isn't enough focus on prohibitions for those fleets that are part of the problem of overfishing and overcapacity. We see a lot of concerns around distant water fishing nations, and the way that a lot of that fishing is reliant upon subsidies, and the way that it's being addressed so far is failing to really address that issue and rein them in, rein those fleets in. Another concern that we have is that when there has been talk and proposals to specifically make the prohibitions target large-scale fleets, and unfortunately that's been largely pushed back against by unsurprisingly those large-scale those countries with large-scale fleets. And so our first concern is that it's not dealing with the problem. The second priority or concern that we have is that the sustainability flexibility that's on the table is largely a carve-out for those same big fishing fleets, or those fishing members who have a lot of capacity to meet the very stringent thresholds that carve-out has. It's been referred to as reverse special differential treatment, and we would align with that view, given that what the flexibility is rewarding is those members who have large capacity to measure, to manage, and to fund their fishing. So we have a new balanced agreement in the sense of who's being able to access flexibilities in that instance too. And I think speaking of those flexibilities, the mandate from the Sustainable Development Goals is very clear that it has to be appropriate and effective special differential treatment. And the highly conditionalized, the highly tiered system of special differential treatment is being proposed. Also the way it deals with small scale fishes, which I'll allow other people to discuss. We argue that fails that mandate. It's not appropriate and effective, and placing the burden of the prohibitions on those developing countries that fall within that, the different thresholds within that. So maybe I'll leave it at that. We have some other speakers here. So I'll pass over to Alencio Simões, who's from the National Fish Workers Forum in India. Alencio?
Yes. Good afternoon to all. So I represent National Fish Workers Forum from India, which is one of the largest small-scale organization in the world, and I and my fellow comrades, around 50 plus fishers, have come to Abu Dhabi to kind of protest the negotiations for the fishery subsidy. Simply because, first of all, we are asking WTO, there is no proper definition for what is small-scale fisheries. So, for who we are trying to restrict this so-called negotiations for? Is it, if you are talking about overfishing or sustainable fishing, then who are they talking about? Because the very fact, the definition itself is not defined, nor anybody in the world have defined, or any country has defined what is small-scale fishers first. So because I as a fisherman, I can tell you about India, what problem we are facing. Because initially I used to go with the traditional practice, like a 10-feet outboard boat, having a 10 horsepower engine. But then as I had to go deeper, I increased my size. So I have gone to 40 feet, I have gone to up to 280 horsepower engine. And the question arises, why stop subsidies for capture fisheries and then multifold your subsidies to culture fisheries? So in what way are you trying to say that you are protecting the marine resources? Because if you are reducing subsidies for capture fisheries and then increasing multifold to culture fisheries, then you are creating even much more damage, which has been already done. Because I will say as a fisherman, we are not overfishing. It is the global warming. It is the sea level temperature which is rising. It is the industrial waste which has been dumped into the sea. It is the blue economy policies which is trying to grab the entire ocean, concretize the entire ocean. And if you are not going to address these actual issues, then how is that by stopping subsidies you are going to save the marine resources in the ocean? So that is a fundamental question which we are asking. And all that we want to say that EU fishing, Chinese boats are entering into our EEZ. They are having this large fleet of boats where hardly Indian fishers do not have, because out of 100 million fishers, 60% of the fishermen live below the poverty line. So we are still using, we get minimum subsidy for fuel. We still use kerosene for fuel. We use sailboat for fuel. We do not have basic infrastructure like ice plants, like fish storage yards, proper markets. So there are multiple problems. So I don't think stopping the subsidy for small scale is the solution for protection of overfishing, because like how COP27 has adopted geoengineering to arrest carbon dioxide from the ocean, is not a solution to save the ocean from sea level rise, because these are invasive species, and we are putting invasive species into our ocean and further deteriorating the ocean. So we are saying that in terms of India, we also met with the Indonesian officials, asking them to champion our cause too and jointly fight this, because we certainly feel that stopping subsidies is not a solution. But if you do that, I feel that you are going to displace us completely, because then you are saying that you are talking about saving the fish, but what about saving the fishermen, the fishers? So if you are going to say that by not giving subsidies you are going to save the fishing resources, I'm sorry, that's a wrong approach. There has to be a holistic approach. You will have to sit down on the grassroots unions, associations, and find an amicable solution, because I don't think this kind of harsh measures of the WTO will help anyways the exploitation of marine resources.
Thank you, Valencio. Now I'd like to introduce Maruf Barakat from Coast Foundation Bangladesh. He'll speak on some of the situation in Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Adam. And I want to echo with Valencio because I like the sentence that you were talking about saving the fish, but not the people who are fishing. So anyways, from Bangladesh, I want to say something about the fisheries subsidies in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is providing subsidy to the poor fishermen during the fishing ban. I mean, the subsidy is all about the total allocation of Bangladeshi fisheries subsidies is providing life-saving food to the very poor fishermen during the fishing ban. There is a 3 months of fishing ban across the year, 3 times. So then the individuals, the poor fishing community, they are not able to go to rivers and to the ocean for fishing. And it is the reason of the fishing ban is so that the fish stock in the sea can rise. I mean, it's the breeding season of gilsa fish. So I can say that Bangladesh is giving subsidy for increasing the fish stock. We feel it's quite funny because they are saying that we need to stop subsidy so that it doesn't encourage the overfishing. But I am giving subsidy for increasing the fish stock. So I'm not giving the subsidy for those very poor fishermen for increasing their capacity, for giving them some support so that they can go to the sea for fishing. I was talking with a fisherman on the other day before I came here. He was saying that nowadays it is very difficult to find fish within the 24 nautical miles from the coastline of Bangladesh because somehow the fish is not available within this area. So even if they have the small boats, they have to go beyond the 24 nautical miles for fishing. So again, it is we are kind of breaking the rules that we are going beyond the 24 nautical miles. And also, like I was just seeing that the contribution of the global marine fish capture, and I found that Australia is like 0.2%, while Bangladesh is 0.85%. So Bangladesh has already crossed the threshold of 0.8% of global marine capture. So Bangladesh cannot give subsidy. So Australia is a developed country. Bangladesh is a very, particularly in terms of fishing community, they are one of the poorest fishing community in the world. So then the population of Australia is less than Bangladesh. So that's why they are, and they have other businesses. They are not going to catch fish from the sea. So I'm saying this because it is actually. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all kind of solution when you talk about fishing subsidies. You have to consider some of the context, as Valencio said. In India, it's a different scenario. In Bangladesh, it's a different scenario. In Australia, it's a different scenario. So we just cannot feed everyone under the same roof. There must be some special and differential treatment. And the changes we have been seeing in the fisheries subsidies talks that if the developed countries who are responsible for overfishing, if they can show that the fish stock in the sea is naturally resuming again, then they will not be bound to withdraw their subsidy. So we really don't understand what kind of deal is this. So anyways, I'll stop here. Maybe if there is any questions about fishing, then I can contribute. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mara, for bringing up a lot of those key issues that are being discussed right now around the definitions and the limitations being put on small-scale fishers, particularly the geographical limit of where they can and can't fish in order to, be allowed to access or be provided these subsidies that we're discussing. I'll pass it now over to Fikman Saragi, who's from the People's Coalition for Fisheries Justice in Indonesia.
Thank you, Adam. Hi everyone, I'm Fikman Saragi. I'm from the People's Coalition for Fisheries Justice, or in Indonesia, it's called KIA. I want to tell you about the first thing is in the global context from the draft text of Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. First, the WTO will remove fisheries subsidies such as fuel subsidies, insurance, price support for fish catch, and subsidies for covering fishing losses. And the second is fisheries subsidies at the WTO is very discriminatory for the developing country and less developed country, where subsidies that should be maintained by developing countries, including Indonesia, are actually limited or even prohibited. Meanwhile, the developed countries and large-scale fishing industries can still maintain their subsidies as long as they can implement the sustainable fisheries management measures. Third, there is no clear definition of who constitutes small-scale fisheries and the category of fishers that will target it under this agreement. And the fourth is this agreement will limit Fisherfolk fishing distance just only to 12 nautical miles in the developing countries, and doesn't even give a special treatment to archipelagic states such as Indonesia. In fact, in the developing countries, small-scale fishers are the one of the actors that play an important role in maintaining food security through the provision of fish at the local level. If the agreement is agreed, so the removal of fishery subsidies will disrupt food security in the supply of fish in the developing countries. And the second thing is, if we talk about fishing subsidies agreement in Indonesian context, first, the elimination of fishery subsidies will contrary to Indonesian law and Indonesian regulation, which clearly state that small-scale fishers are entitled to subsidies from the government of Indonesia, such as full subsidies, fishers insurance, life insurance, fishing risk warranted, and realizing fish prices that benefit for Fisherfolk. And second, 90% of the total Fisherfolk in Indonesia are small-scale fisher folks. The number of small-scale fisher folks in Indonesia has reached 2.4 million people, and there are 3.9 million fisherwomen who involved in pre-production and post-production activities in small-scale fisherfolk. The biggest expense for small-scale fisherfolk is to buy a fuel, and the number of fisherfolk contributed around 32.40% of the poverty rate in Indonesia. In 2021, the extremely poverty rate in coastal area reached 4.18%. The third, small-scale fisherfolks in Indonesia are not the actors who causing overfishing and overcapacity in Indonesia. They are just fight against IU fishing in Indonesia too. They report to us if they find or found small or big fishing, or fishing industry in their zone. So I think in Indonesia context, small-scale Fisherfolk just against the air fishing and overcapacities from industry of fishing industry. And the last but not least, before our closing, I want to say that fishery subsidies have been guaranteed in Indonesian constitution and Indonesian law. If fishery subsidies are eliminated and prohibited by the WTO, it will be against our constitution, Indonesian constitution. The WTO will intervene in Indonesian constitution and will change Indonesian regulation that have guaranteed fishery subsidies for small-scale Fisherfolk. It will be harmful for small-scale Fisherfolk in Indonesia and the other developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fisherman. I think we can sort of see that the issue of small-scale fishing and the ability to have subsidies provided to it is obviously is a matter that's drawn a lot of people's attention and concern towards the WTO. And you can sort of look around the room and sort of bear witness to that. I'd like to just pass the microphone to a colleague from National Fisherfolk, Fisherfolk's Forum again, to just make a small comment.
Actually, I would like to add one more point with our General Secretary, UNCLOS. In India, actually, the fishing is doing by traditional methods. Mainly, yeah, my name is Vincent Jain. I represented Artisan Deep Sea Fishery. So in India, the fishing is mainly doing by traditional methods and also mechanized methods. Mainly, it is for the propulsion. And small percentage of people engage in using the trawlers, but it is not affecting the entire fishing industry. So it is slowly, it is mechanizing, not modernizing. So that is what I would like to add with the So the number of things is from mechanizing to modernizing. So we have to help them. We have to support them to become at least for 25 years to get this subsidy to support the traditional methods of fishing methods and the traditional fishermen. That's what I like to add one point.
Great, thank you so much. And so the other colleague here, would you like to just introduce yourself and give a short statement?
My name is Joseph. I'm representing South Indian Federation of Fishermen Societies. It's an NGO of small-scale fishermen, and we're also running societies of small-scale fishermen. And actually, today morning we had a very good discussion with these people. Came from different states of India. They're representing the different branches of fishery. Mechanized, and they're all traditional fishermen, fisheries, and they all have a lot of apprehensions about the subsidy issue. The apprehension is actually their main point is that what's the result of this subsidy? The result of subsidy will vary from the result of subsidy which is going to a developed nation, and also the result of subsidy which is going to make impact to the small scale fishery. So that should be addressed, that issue should be addressed, and the type of subsidy which the small scale fishermen are enjoying now, we cannot even say that these are all subsidies. Even it will not come in the definition of subsidy. So these issues should be addressed. I think even my colleagues will make some statement on this.
I am Suresh Dhanu from Mumbai, India. I belong to the traditional fishing community, and fishing has been an ancestral business. Till the last generation, none of us had gone to school. After some time, we started going to school and getting education. And the concept of fishing, of subsidy that we are discussing over here, we need to understand what is a subsidy first, and then we should take it ahead. What is a subsidy? A subsidy means, according to me, it may differ from a person to person, but a subsidy means that a cost has been reduced. The original cost price of something has been reduced. And in India, there is nothing that we are getting at a subsidized rate or a subsidized thing. What we are getting is a reimbursement of taxes and not subsidy. The government of India and all the various state governments are recovering their cost. Like now, if you take diesel, for example, diesel, the international price of crude plus the refining cost plus the cost of transportation all put together with a certain amount of excise duty that the government charges. After the government has charged that excise duty, the oil companies charge a profit and then they sell it to us. Then there is multiple taxation. Various states tax on that. That tax to a certain extent is reimbursed to us. So that you cannot call it as a subsidy. When you call it subsidy, subsidy means reimbursement of cost price. There is no subsidy. We are not being subsidized on the cost price or their profit. We are being subsidized about the multiple, or we are being reimbursed, not subsidized. Of reimbursement and subsidy, there is a difference, vast difference between both the things. When you call, I was reading an article put up by some NGOs saying that diesel is being subsidized. In India, it's not being subsidized. Now, when you talk about subsidies and the WTO wants to get everybody at par, first, when you want to get everybody at par, you've got to study the total fishing industry in the world. See, some of the countries use vessels which are about 100 meters long and 20 feet deep, and they go out. It's like a mothership, they do everything over there and come back. In India, that is not the fishing that is being done. We have no industrial fishing in India. Maybe a few ships had come earlier on the east coast of India, which were a joint venture between some countries and Indians, and they tried to reach the benefits. 97% of Indians in fishing industry are traditional fishermen. You've got to think about that, work out the thing. See, there are developed countries who have got their lands bereft of all the marine products. There is nothing left with them. So they have started venturing out to and encroaching upon other people's territories. Like now we had a few days back in Maharashtra, the state of India, two Chinese trawlers they had come into our territorial waters. Now, what are territorial waters? Territorial waters, India has some 26 states. Territorial waters are 12 nautical miles from the coastline are territorial waters. Beyond that, it's known as an exclusive economic zone. And beyond that is the high seas, where the world, everybody is permitted to go everywhere. Now, if you are coming inside our land and you are going to poach upon us, you should control those people first and then talk about subsidizing us. Subsidy, please understand the concept of subsidy and then we should talk about subsidy. This is my only humble request to all of you all. Before you take a valid decision, study each country by itself. Like now one of our friends from Indonesia said that things are being guaranteed by the constitution. The constitutional validity, a sovereign validity cannot be taken away by anyone. It's a sovereign thing. Yes, the world has got a right over it to say, but because some people who have the right to do something and they have amassed everything, it doesn't mean that they will put their will on, impose their will on someone else. Now, this is the thing where first you have to understand, take each country into consideration and find out what their needs are, how they are doing business, whether they need to be supported or whether they need not be supported. Like our government said, you give us 25 years to get everybody at par and then you will impose whatever the WTO said. we request all of you all, it's a humble request from a traditional fisherman. I am the first generation in my family who's been educated. And I have gone only up to a graduation level. It's a minimum level of education, it's called. But we've started understanding all these things. We have not even gone to the level where other people, other countries, we are not doing industrial fishing. It's a traditional fishing. And what basic fishing we are doing is, we have mechanized the thing. Instead of hauling the nets, we are still hauling the nets by hand. And we are only pulling the rope by a winch. It's not something, and now we talk about the propulsion engines. India doesn't manufacture high-speed propulsion engines at all. The maximum which has been manufactured in India of what I know of is by a company known as Ashok Leyland, and that is only a 300 bhp engine. Now, other countries who are poaching on our territorial waters also, they have manufactured high-speed engines, and they have, because of the parity that we say that we should allow free trade and free everything, they have started dumping those diesel engines on us, and they have forced us to buy those engines which are high-speed engines. We control all of that, but first what I would request is you study each and every country before you start imposing whatever subsidies. Impose the subsidies on the high growth nations and then come to nations like us. I would request that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For giving me the time to represent that. Thank you so much.
In that case, thank you for the interventions from all the speakers. There is a global civil society letter that was signed by I think over 70 groups that's available at the back for people to read. And I think also, even though there's a lot of people in this room, that letter shows that there is quite a strong, united voice from a lot of civil society calling both, for any outcome to target those most responsible, but to also make sure that we're not just trading off fish, Fisherfolk livelihoods for fish. And I think that's one of the key aspects of that letter that we're really trying to promote. It's about development and sustainability. And so with that, maybe I'll open up to any questions. If there's questions from the press or others, we can have a quick round of questions. I'm aware of the time is slipping.
I'm sorry, but can I add one line?
Can I please just let...
Only one line. Right?
Well, hold on, let's just see if there's any questions, and maybe you get the opportunity.
Only one line. When you talk about sustainability, you take about the potential catch that is available in India and what is the catch that is caught. We still have a gap between the potential and actual consume of about 40%. That's sustainability, what India does. Thank you.
So is there any of the press here? If there's any questions, we're happy to take them. But if not, we're available for interviews. Sorry, Manja?
Yeah. So the current text suggests that small fishers under special and differential treatment, whatever is the exemption for small fishers, it's either that subsidies to small fishers who operate within 12 nautical miles, or after a lot of fight, developing countries have put in 12 nautical miles as an option. So it would be what we're seeing from the text, between 12 or 200 nautical miles, and I wanted to ask the panel whether what works. Does 12 nautical miles work for you, or is that a challenge? And what would you like to see in that exemption for small fishers?
As said by all of us, that initially we used to fish in 5 nautical mile, then we went to 12 nautical mile, then we are in 24, we are into 50, we are into 100. As said that for us, I don't think 12 nautical mile is the cutoff. We need to go up to at least 100. But again, the question, the reason we have to understand the reason why we are going further up is simply because that we cannot find fish not because of overfishing, but simply because of industrial waste, which has been dumped in the ocean, environmental laws which have been diluted. This pollution, sea level rise, global warming is one of the main causes as to why we need to go further on. And fish does not have a boundary, it keeps going. It keeps going. So we cannot say that the fish is available in 12 nautical miles, or in 24 nautical miles, or in 34 nautical miles. It keeps going. So we need to go there. We need to be there to fish. So if you are not going to be there, then how do we fish? So the question comes is, we are one side talking about saving the fish, but not talking about saving the fishes. So this is, I think, what WTO needs to understand.
Thank you, Ranja. I think in Indonesia context same like in context, and I want to make a detail for Indonesia. Indonesia is archipelagic state, and in several areas in small island, the Fisherfolk who use 5 cruise tone boat, the distance of the fishing is may until 13 or 14 miles, nautical miles. If the draft text is only around 12 nautical miles, maybe it could be discriminative for us, because Indonesian Fisherfolk tradition could be fishing around 13 or 14 nautical miles. And the other same like also said about India context. Thank you.
I'll pass it to Maruf. I guess my contribution would be that the fact that we're into such detailed discussions about how far small-scale fishers can and can't fish in order to receive subsidies shows just how far we've moved from dealing with the problem. Like the problem isn't Fisherfolk going 13 nautical miles. The problem is the massive vessels that can the tonnage of fish that they can get is enormous. That's the problem. The problem isn't 13, 24, 18 nautical miles, and I think that's where we need to ensure that the negotiations really start to focus.
Yeah, thank you. Not on this topic, but I want to say one very important thing, that seeing this audience, I am just now feeling that this is really, we are talking about fishing now, because I can see the faces of the Fisherfolk. And there is a saying that nothing about us without us. So if you are talking about fishing, if you are talking about the Fisherfolk and everything, so you have to be able to make the Fisherfolk present in the discussion. So that's why I think this is very important, that nothing about us without us.
Is there any other questions for the panel? I'm conscious of the time. It's been
So I have one, not the question, but I have one my view. I'm from India, Gujarat. So I am representing a society. We are having 7,000 members in our society. So we are calling sea as our father. Sea is our father, and we are saving them. See, this is my photos. This everyday works we do. Every day we are having 2,000 boat registered in our society, around 600 canoes. My society name is Sri Mahavir Machimar Sahkari Mani. It's a cooperative society. So we are doing this kind of things also in our India, in our society. 2,000 boats are bringing the plastic waste from the sea. This is the plastic which is dumped by the very heavy ships which are moving from there. You can see this. We collect every day around there. When our boats are coming, 50 boats, 100 boats every day from the sea after doing the 15 days, 20 days fishing in the deep sea. They are bringing around, see, this kind of 100 kg plastics, 200 kg plastics. So we are saving the sea also. So for this also, if these subsidies are banned like our nations, then our fishermen, how they will sustain. Our livelihood is beyond that, with that subsidy only. Because we are not nothing without that subsidy. So this this is my one suggestion. Every state in India also are doing this. Even we are putting the very big artificial reefs by our own coast. Even our government is doing that. Indian government. Artificial reefs we are putting in the sea for saving the future of eggs and future of the baby fishes. So these kind of things we are doing in our country, Bharat. So we are with that. We consider sea as our father. So this kind of subsidies should not be banned for us.
Thank you for that and sort of sharing that. A lot of the activities that you're doing. Maybe now's a nice point to wrap this up. I think we've covered a lot of ground, both in terms of the countries represented, the perspectives of different fisherfolk groups, and the concerns that are being negotiated within the rooms just across the way from us. So with that, maybe I'll thank all the panelists for sharing the perspectives today, and yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Long life the Fisherfolk.
Yes.